Hi, this is Terry from Fabric Junction, and today I have a new project for you. It's called the number 6 table runner. And as you can see, I have one here, and it's called number 6 because we use 6.5-inch squares, and I use 6 of them. So, to start with, I had some squares. I'm getting funny signals, but we'll continue. I had some snowflakes left over from another project, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with them. And I remembered this old pattern that we created several years ago that we had for coffee, that we had coffee mugs in the center. And I thought, perfect, this will work. So a couple of minor modifications, and now we have the number 6 table runner, in which I'm using my snowflakes, but you can use anything. If you want to fussy cut something, go for it. If you've got a grate all over that you want to show off that center, use that. But cut them into 6.5-inch squares. And I used my square, because my most popular, or my most common, the one I use the most, and cut 6.5-inch squares for my runner. From there, I cut strips to make my 4-patch. So I have strips here. I've got most of my 4-patch made. So I'm going to finish up with my 4-patch. So I sew my 2 strips together. I'm using my 1/4-inch seam. And your strips are 3.5 inches wide. And I did cut them length of fabric, the width of fabric, WOF. And I like to cut mine before I press it. And the reason is they're laying nice together as they are. And if I cut my 3.5 inch now, I don't get them off or curves like I do when I press it. When I press the whole strip open and cut. So this is my personal preference. So I go through, I cut my stack. I need to press. This is where I press. And again, I press to the dark. And to sew my 4-patch, I take the top one, flip it over, line up my seams, to 1/4 inch, got my next one, and I went through my whole stack this way. I'm going to open them up, press again. Then the only other thing you need then are your rectangles. And for that, I cut a 9.5-inch square and I bisect it twice. I don't touch it. I try not to let it move. I line up. and get my second one. I have my triangles. Now that I have all my pieces, I'm ready to lay out my runner. And for time, I've already laid out and sewn together part of the runner. But you'll lay out your pieces, and I laid out my snowflakes first. I lined them up, point to point, and then I filled in with my 4 patch, and you'll have, if I remember right, 10, yes, you will have made 10 of your 4 patches. And this one I line up so that my gold is running up. If you want, maybe you want them to run across. Nothing wrong with that. But in this particular one, I line them up so that they are running a straight line, and then I fill in with my rectangles. And I need one there, I need one there. And it looks correct. I've got it. So now we're going to sew our rows at that angle. So I start and I know these two go together. So I do one row at a time so I don't get myself confused. Lay my parts back where they belong, and then I can sew the two together. Okay, and I remind myself that that's where that one goes, so then I put the last one. Normally when I do these runners, I actually do it in halves. I sew 3 sections together, and then I sew the other 3 sections together. Which is part of what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sew these 2 smaller sections together. And I tend not to press. You can, and if I would stop to press, I would press towards the block. I'm just going to lay those seams down at the moment. So go ahead and press those seams towards the less bulky, which is away from the 4 patch. And you know you have a rectangle, or excuse me, not a rectangle, a triangle. Go back to school. And you're going to have a little dog ear. And you want that because that's your seam allowance you're creating. So it actually should stick out about the distance of your seam allowance. So after I get them together, go to the ironing board, get it pressed again. For time, I'm just going to continue sewing. So now I line up my 2 pieces, and again I would press, I would make sure that everything is pressed towards the less bulky, so I get that seam lined up there. There we go. have a little bit of tail to start, which is my seam allowance tail. If you line those up, then you always, like I said, you can ease one block to the other that way and keep everything lined up. Fold that to the less bulky, get it lined up nice and pretty. Check to make sure I still have my little seam allowance tail. So that once you have, there you go, all of them together, press it, quilt it. If you don't want to take it to a quilter or do big heavy quilting on it, stitch in the ditch. This is a great one for just stitching in the ditch, if that's how you would like to quilt it. This particular one, you can go and do a simple binding, which is what I have on the blue one. This one, I think I'm going to go back and put our piping binding technique on this particular one. And that one, the reason I thought is because when I do the technique, if you go to our YouTube video and see it, it'll end up with that little bit of gold on the edge. And I think that's what I'm going to do with this one to spruce it up. Thank you for watching our videos, and I hope you have fun making your number 6 table runner.